Hey folks, I'm Eddie G, DM Fumble, and this is another episode of Fumbling Around, where I look at all things related to D&D, Dragonlance, and whatever else interests me at the moment. And today it's time for another unboxing video. We're going to look at the Draconian Warband from WotC as part of their Warband line. This set runs $45 US and includes 7 minis for a per mini cost of about $6.43 each. In the box, we get 2 Baz Draconians, 2 Bozak Draconians, and 1 each of the Capek, Sivek, and Aurek Draconians. For this review, I'm going to actually look at the Warband in the box, as well as compare it to previously released pre-painted miniatures from D&D's older pre-painted miniature line. Until just recently, Draconians were a wholly Dragonlance setting specific creature, but with the release of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, the concept of transmogrifying dragon eggs into dragon men has been expanded to incorporate not just metallic eggs, but also chromatic and gem dragon eggs as well. In earlier versions of the Dragonlance setting, evil wizards and clerics twisted the good-aligned dragon eggs into evil creatures. Brass dragon eggs yielded Baz Draconians, copper eggs created Capek, and so forth. A few other details concerning Draconians. The 3/5 Dragonlance monster Bestiary contains Draconians that were the result of trying to transmogrify evil dragon eggs into Draconians. This resulted in good-aligned Draconians. This is not the same as what is presented in Fizban's Treasury. The 4E Draconomicon Metallic Dragons book contains the 5 usual Draconians, as well as the hitherto unknown and never mentioned again Adamaz, I think that's right, based on adamantine dragon eggs, Ferak, based on iron dragon eggs, and Kobaz, based on cobalt dragon eggs. Dragonlance included the concept of failed draconian prototypes. This is where the secret recipe of transmogrifying a dragon egg into a draconian just wasn't quite right, and this resulted in less than desirable draconians. As a result, we have what are called the Trag Draconian and the Sesk, I believe that's how it's pronounced, type of Draconians. The Trag Draconian, I believe, was just released as part of the online D&D Beyond extra Dragonlance creatures that you can get from their website. Next to last, in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, the Draconian types are given generic names since they apply to metallic, chromatic, and gem dragons. For example, we have Draconian Foot Soldiers. That applies to Baz, as well as Draconians that result from white and crystal dragon eggs. Draconian Infiltrators apply to Capek, as well as black and topaz dragon eggs. Draconian Mages apply to Bozak, as well as those coming from green and emerald dragon eggs. Draconian Dreadnoughts apply to Siveks, as well as those that result from blue and sapphire dragon eggs. And finally, the Draconian Masterminds. Those apply to the Aureks, as well as those that result from red or amethyst dragon eggs. And finally, in Dragonlance lore, Draconians were thought to be exclusively male, which these minis are. But it was later revealed that Takesis and the dragon armies kept female Draconian eggs in stasis and hidden from the Draconians, so they couldn't breed as a true race on their own. Now let me switch cameras and we can look at these minis up close and in detail. Starting at the bottom of the Draconian pecking order, we have the Baz Draconian. This set includes 2, and you can get more of them from the Shadow of the Dragon Queen blind box miniatures. This is a nice sculpt and a great paint job. So we can see here. This sculpt actually looks like just art that's in the module for Shadow of the Dragon Queen. And we can see here a nice, big and beefy Baz Draconian who looks like he is definitely a menace to any party of adventurers, especially in the larger numbers that these guys usually appear in. Now, let's compare him to the original Baz Draconian. This is the Baz Draconian from the Dragon Eye set, released in 2003. I really like the sculpt, even though you don't see this creature's wings. This reminds me of the scene in the first Dragonlance book, Dragons of Autumn Twilight, where the party first encounters Draconians. And they're described as covered in robes, so you can't see anything about them until only at the last moment they reveal their monstrous appearance. So you can see here, this Baz looks a little less bulky. Maybe he skipped a meal or didn't, maybe skipped a few leg days, as opposed to his other counterpart here from the newer set. Even though he's a little bit smaller, I do like this Baz. He is just a classic foot soldier. Next up, we have the Capac Draconian. We only get one in this set, and I think that's unfortunate. There are no others available in the Shadow of the Dragonlance mini blind boxes, and they are usually encountered in large numbers. So this is definitely a troop builder type of creature that you'd want to have multiple numbers of. There is a Draconian Infiltrator in the Fizzband set, but this is really not based on the Capac Draconian. And here's the Capac Draconian previously released. This one's also from the Dragon Eye set. I don't like the paint job here. This one looks more white than copper, and I think this might be from the source image that they used, a Keith Parkinson painting called I Think We're Lost, where the Draconians are actually in a snowy region and partially covered in snow. It's certainly larger and fits in with the Capac that we have here. So in that regard, I do like it. Next up, we have the Bozak Draconian. We do get two in this set, and I do love this great pose. He looks like he's either commanding his troops or about to cast a spell. Additionally, you can get more Bozaks from the Shadow of the Dragon Queen blind box minis. I appreciate that we get two Bozaks in this set because previously we had 0. Blank space. This was one of the Draconians, this was the only Draconian that they never got around to making in the previous mini sets. So it's nice to at least get two here and the ability to get more for troop building. Next up, we have the Sivak Draconian. This is the only Draconian that's large size, and we only get one in the set, and that's okay. Typically, they aren't encountered in large numbers. In fact, in the original Dragonlance trilogy, I think they only encounter one. The sculpt here is beautiful. I love the wings furled out. I love the two weapons. Nice fierce teeth on these weapons that look like they're ready to do a lot of damage through strength. This one here is a little bent, so I'm going to use the old hot water trick to help kind of bend him back into shape. Otherwise, really like the pose and the menacing look that he has. The only thing I'm not crazy about on this one is that his skin and his armor don't look differentiated enough. I can see a little bit of a tint between the actual armor that he's wearing versus his silver skin, but I would like to see it a bit more. But otherwise, very great paint job. Nice to have such a big, forceful presence at my table. Now, there are no other Sivaks in the Shadow of the Dragon Queen mini blind box, but there will soon be an unpainted Draconian Dreadnought. And if you remember, that's the equivalent generic version for a Sivak. That one comes from the Fizzband's Treasury of Dragons, and that one is based on the Blue Dragon Egg version of the Dreadnought from that book. I plan on picking one up and painting it silver so that it fits along with just these guys. This is the previous version of the Sivak. This one came from the Legendary Evil set in 2009. This one was rare, so it was harder to come by than the previously released Baz and Capac Draconians. He is in a charging pose. He only has one big weapon, but is a massive, massive two-handed longsword. And then again, I do like that we get great differentiation from his skin, the silver wings, the silver head, versus the armor that he's wearing, even from his leg bracers to his feet. We get that nice differentiation. He's kind of leaned over a little bit. Maybe that's why I'm not as crazy about this pose, but I do like the paint scheme on this one. I think maybe better than the Warband's version. And lastly, we have the Aurak Draconian. This one is derived from the Egg of a Good Dragon, and for a little trivia here, Aurak, the first two letters, AU, are the periodic symbol for gold. I really like this mini. He's got the same kind of red design that's going to be indicative of all of the red dragon army creatures that we're seeing in Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Got a little tiny bit of flame dancing on his hand, which is just wonderful because we know that he is possibly about to cast a spell and cause some damage. Again, great paint job. I love that he is showing off his gold toned physique as well as other armor to help keep him protected. Now, while there are no other Aurak Draconians in the blind box, there is actually a named character, Captain Hask, and he is an Aurak, and he's also a different pose from this generic one. So, unfortunately, Captain Hask is a rare figure, so harder to get than even the other Draconians that appear in the Shadow of the Dragon Queen blind boxes. If you can get one, you can get another pose of a nice Draconian. So let's look at the previous version. This is the previous version, also from Legendary Evil set, and is also rare. I do love the paint job on this, especially the bracers on his arms, the nice little extra work on his belt. And you'll notice here, hopefully you'll notice, he's got a kind of translucent fireball or flaming sphere in his hand. This was kind of rare back then for them to do the kind of translucent pieces on their miniatures. We see that a lot more with a lot of different minis from the WizKids line, but this is kind of rare and kind of a neat little extra to see on a Draconian. So that's my review and comparison of the new Draconian Warband and the previously painted versions. If I ever get around to painting up the old Ral Partha Draconians, maybe I'll do another comparison video. Overall, I like the new Warband. We finally get all 5 versions of the Draconians, thanks to the inclusion of the missing Bozak. I would have preferred a second Capac Draconian, maybe in lieu of the second Bozak, especially since we can get more Bozak Draconians from the blind box sets. The paints all look very nice, though again, I would have liked to see a little more differentiation on the new Civac versus what we see on that old Civac Draconian. I'd be happy to mix and match both the new and the old in my Draconian Warbands for my upcoming games. So overall, 2 enthusiastic thumbs up. I don't know if I'll buy a second box of Warband. Maybe if I can get them on a discount, I'll try to get some, or maybe even just a few pieces, more Capacs, more Baz. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this review, and if so, please consider hitting that like and subscribe to help the channel grow. I am DM Fumble, and if you want to see me on the internets, I am, again, DM Fumble at Twitter and Instagram.